You're listening to the Inbound Logistics Podcast with a special look at our video podcast series. Good afternoon and welcome to this Inbound Logistics video podcast. Today we'll be talking about balancing innovation and practicality in the AI-driven supply chain. Our guest today is Shaune Pittman, Vice President of Logistics Operations for Avnet, and here's our host, Amy Roach.
Thank you, Jeff. And Shaune, welcome. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Amy. Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. We have lots to talk about. Obviously, AI is the hottest topic in supply chain, I think. So we're going to have a great discussion and, talk about the balance that companies are trying to achieve between being really innovative and forward thinking on AI and then, having to practically evaluate all of these solutions and initiatives and figure out, where they fit in the supply chain.
Yeah.
But before we jump in, just do us, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Avnet and your role there.
Sure. Yeah. So name is Shaune Pittman. Again, thank you, Amy, for the opportunity here. I am the Vice President of America's Logistics Operations. That effectively includes responsibility for the flagship facility. I'll reference it as in our Chandler, Arizona, in the city of Chandler, Arizona there. I also have two facilities in Mexico as well, mainly focused on logistics, warehousing. There's also incorporation of import-export operations management.
So Avnet, I know, is a technology company. You have, I'm sure, quite a few different lines of business, a lot of different products. Give me sort of the high-level overview on that side of the company.
Yeah, my pleasure, Amy. We are a technology components distributor, founded in 1921. Our headquarters are in Phoenix, Arizona. Our flagship facility warehouse is actually in Chandler, Arizona. Employees, over 15,000, imagine that, over 15,000 employees. As it relates to the respective presence that we have across the globe, 13 distribution centers, 300 secondary facilities, imagine that, 19 value add centers. I'll also add, for those who can do math, of course, right, you've already computed that we've been in business over 100 years, imagine that. And as it relates to our active customers, over 450,000 with 140 countries served. So very proud to be an employee here at this wonderful company.
So with all of that complexity, I think that's a good way to segue in. I'm sure you have a good background on trying to manage a lot of different things at once. And I think that's some of what's driving people or companies rather in moving towards automation and AI. So let's just start with some, overview top line from your perspective. What do you think is driving this push towards automation and, to AI adoption in the supply chain?
Yeah, when you have cutting technology such as AI and that combined with automation certainly allows any respective company to establish themselves as a differentiator. And we at Avnet certainly have that as a part of our strategy. We've identified high priority workflows, and our intent is to move the needle, whether it be on inventory management, design, engineering, sales and marketing, et cetera. Of course, that also includes supply chain as well. Certainly looking to increase our opportunities as it relates to key performance indicators and supporting our customers as it relates to the experience of our partners as well as our internal customers.
Got it. And so what would you say are some of the benefits then, both, in general that shippers are aiming to get from moving towards using AI, and then specifically for you at Avnet, what are some of the benefits you're looking to gain from your implementations with AI?
Yeah, so when I speak to the differentiation, that actually starts with working smarter and allowing our team members more time to dedicate to innovation, face time with customers and suppliers, as well as managing the more complex tasks. By the way, for Avnet, that doesn't necessarily result in replacing people, but more around repurposing resources. and allowing AI to support the repetitive tasks. So as I mentioned, the engagement with our customers, a lot of what we do is described as simple, but certainly is complicated in certain aspects. And, that face time with our customers matters and certainly allows for us to improve our working relationships and also solve for some of our customers' challenges that they may be managing through, and certainly helps us both in that regard and moving forward.
Yeah. You mentioned that repetitive tasks, and I think that's something that really companies are keying in on as a really high potential use for AI, and specifically, for AI agents. So can you expand a little bit on that and, some other supply chain functions that you think maybe are ripe for AI use?
Yeah. So, again, I have responsibility within logistics. And so when you consider the benefit as it relates to AI intervention, it allows us the opportunity to plan for resourcing a lot more effectively. As you can imagine, of course, that helps us with managing our cycle times, reducing cycle times, and of course, reducing costs, et cetera. And where we are able to reduce cycle time and cost, that certainly helps our partners, customers, and suppliers alike. Internally, it allows us also to, of course, bridge whatever respective gaps that we may be encountering. And so between what would be the material sales and logistics teams, especially as we are managing through what are high peak time periods within our fiscal year, it allows us to effectively, benefit from what were those efficiencies that are captured when you consider these really powerful tools that are at hand.
Got it. And on the inventory management side, I understand, I think from what you said previously, that Avnet has been using some AI and predictive modeling to help with inventory management. Can you kind of break that down for people listening? What is it that you are doing, and how is it helping the company specifically there?
Yeah. So we've used AI in several instances to help us in managing preventative measures related to inventory. Our focus is to stay ahead of items such as aged inventory, as well as forecasting future consumption needs for our customers, and also what would be purchase orders from our suppliers more accurately. There's never an exact science, but the intent is to be as close to what our customers' demand requirements are. I would also add, as a distributor, we use AI to help us quantify and reduce those risks in areas where we see the potential for problems. These can and do change based on many factors like market conditions. So we're flexible in our approach and apply solutions to areas as needed.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. The flexibility, I would guess, is key, right? I mean, even with AI, like you're saying, there's no guarantee that things are going to go the way you're hoping or planning.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, in our environment, it's great to have a plan, but undoubtedly you have to be nimble. And I think truly that's where we, provide our value proposition, and, the fact that we are flexible across all various team members and groups within our organization allows us to support our customers when, those times of need may arise.
Yeah. And have you made, or could you share, I guess, have you made changes within the supply chain there, kind of as a result of the insights that you have gained from using AI, whether it's predictive modeling and inventory management or anything else, like, really putting into practice the insights and making changes? I'd be curious about that.
Yeah. So, this journey for us as it relates to AI, it started, several years back, actually. By the way, data is a huge part of how you manage through AI, and developing that repository was very key for us. Creating a strategy as it relates to the manner in which we would go through the data and how we would manage through that data was identified through cloud services, and we're leveraging a key partner, I'll say, in that regard. And so we've developed internally what I'll call a knowledge-based AI tool set. That tool set combines documents, very key documents, as you can imagine, with key information along with data sets. And we're using the combination of that information, the data, as well as the respective documents, to help us with order processing, for an example.
Hmm.
In addition to that, we're also working through what I'll call a more expedient way of responding to our customers through their respective inquiries that they may have. And the great thing about AI is there's certainly a generative learning aspect of the tool. And so, being there for our customers when they need us, one can, simplify an inquiry is a really simple point. But, when your customers need you and they have those questions, being able to respond in, I'll say, a quick fashion matters. And so that's where we've been able to actually make some progress. And, it's been the start of, I'll call our AI venture, if you will, with our respective customers and our partners.
Yeah. And that's interesting with the data too, because I think for so many companies, you need a lot of data, and having access to data is obviously crucial for improving the supply chain, but sometimes you get the data overload. And I guess AI, or as you're saying, is can be really helpful with that. Is that a fair assessment?
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. There's another aspect of that, right? AI certainly can provide a multitude of information, and so managing that data set is very key. So when I consider, our approach in Avnet, we're effectively looking at what I'll consider guardrails around that data, and of course ensuring that it's not necessarily AI in use of the worldwide internet, but more importantly, company data, documents, etc. And that's where it becomes meaningful as it relates to our ability to accelerate our usage of the data and
Mhm.
move the needle relative to the KPIs that we expect to impact.
Yeah. Okay. Can you share any results on the KPIs? I'm not sure if that's
Yeah,
anything you're
well,
willing to share, but that would be great to have data.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, great question. So, maybe not necessarily getting into the numbers, but certainly, in speaking high level, the key performance indicators that we're looking to manage, to work through, improve, et cetera. Revenue growth, of course. There's cost savings, cash optimization. And as mentioned, never goes without saying. You certainly can't say it enough. That's also the improved customer relationships between our respective customers as well as our suppliers. And we're managing through all that with the intent and focus on our respective scorecards.
That makes sense. Yeah. And I'm curious how widespread the use is also. Are you using it in other areas of the company, or everyday employees using it, or just maybe at a higher level? Like, what's the, I guess, level of implementation that you're at?
Yeah, so we're currently not only in a place where we have the knowledge-based AI tool that's allowing us to engage with our respective customers, but we can also use what I'll call the application
Mhm.
internal to our operation. And so whether it be supporting respective documents that we're putting together as it relates to various presentations, etc. It's helping us in that regard, not just in the creation of the text, but also the look and feel, the presentation, the aesthetic of the document, the Word document, and/or PowerPoint presentation that the team is putting together. So I would say it's well-rounded in that sense,
Mhm.
and certainly is helping us in that regard. I would also add, imagine leveraging an application that allows for you to record, take notes, provide meaningful feedback as it relates to the temperament of a meeting. And so you may have a question based on a meeting that you were not able to attend, and AI is able to produce not only the minutes from that respective meeting, but I would also say tailor the minutes around your questioning and understanding if there were any major concerns that may have arose that you may need to prioritize based on, again, the subject that was covered in that respective meeting. So imagine it helping you in that sense, and certainly allowing you to be up to speed in the event that you're not able to attend what are critical meetings, but certainly be able to provide input when it's all said and done.
Right. Understood. Okay. I wanted to ask you also, obviously AI is not, done in a vacuum. So I know supply chain automation overall is also something important to Avnet. Can you talk a little bit about the company's approach to supply chain and logistics automation, and maybe some of the other things you're doing along those lines?
Yeah, yeah. So one of the benefits we have, given that we're a global company, we can use certain regions as a testing ground, if you will, for certain automation. We, make, I'll say it very important to provide what I'll consider complex solutions to our respective customer base, and that can also be looked at as it relates to the outsourcing of the services that they require. One example of that would be custom labeling, for an example, and their needs to create various part attributes, etc., based on their need to identify those parts once the material is delivered to their respective docks. An example is OCR. We reference it as OCR. It's optical character recognition, and in that case, we're able to produce exponential custom labels for our respective customer base. We're also able to manage various formats. Now, where that OCR becomes critical is ensuring that you have the right information on the right labels, not just the generation of those respective labels. And so this OCR automated machine is very, very critical in that sense. And it helps us not only with generating those labels, but standardizing processes across our respective regions. And so we have partners, as you can imagine, in Asia, in EMEA, et cetera, and will determine the best location for testing those respective solutions. And we work together to rid of the respective defects, et cetera. And we work on a comprehensive rollout plan. And it has been very beneficial in that sense as it relates to the collaboration across the respective regions.
Right, right. Okay, that's a great example. And then I wanted to ask also, we're talking about some of these solutions that are automated, that are AI based, that are, help with the complexity. And I
Yeah.
think we want to get to how do companies balance focusing on those while also, kind of sticking with the maybe less exciting, but effective logistics and supply chain management solutions and processes that, they've always had. So how do you kind of, at Avnet, and any advice maybe that you have for people who will be listening to, how do you balance between the innovation that you want to get to and the practical nature of, what you have to do every day
Yeah.
in business?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a very good question, and I would say it all balances with, one can argue ROI starts with that certainly,
Mhm.
but also what the intent of that deliverable may be. As it relates to all these, I'll say various projects, etc. It's very key to have cultural acceptance, and change management. It's also important as it relates to, I'll say, the adoption within your respective organization, and so. You want to ensure that you have the right training plan, that you have the right structure in place to support whatever the respective change may be, and not doing too much at any given time. Now that all said, there certainly is a balance, and so you want to ensure that you have those priorities defined as it relates to the timing within your respective year, and whatever that time frame may be that's more complicated. You want to make sure that you're managing through all that, so you're not challenging your team to be embracing that adoption, that change in adoption, when they're managing through other elements that may be important relative to whatever the KPIs that you need to deliver on in your respective company.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So like a roadmap and something, a reasonable amount of time frame to get from point A to B to C to
Absolutely.
however. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
great.
Yeah.
That's super helpful.
Yeah.
And what would you say along the same lines, some of the challenges, and you mentioned some of the resources and maybe training, what are
Yeah.
the challenges that you have faced? And then, more generally, again, for other companies that are thinking of adopting some of these solutions, what are some things that you have to be prepared to deal with?
Yeah, again, you want to make sure that you're managing through the resistance. And so again, when you consider any respective change, you want to make sure that you've established the desire throughout your organization as it relates to why you're moving forward with that change. I think that's very, very important. And usually that starts with awareness. And so whatever campaign it is that you're managing through relative to that change, you want to incorporate awareness. I think that's very important. Through that awareness, you effectively will create the desire. There then is a need to evaluate the knowledge of your respective organization, and the wherever the change is taking place, whatever department, group within your company, you want to evaluate their, I'll say, ability to accept that change based on their knowledge. You then want to reinforce that change, and while you may encounter challenges, you want to certainly make sure that you keep your ears close to your team, and having those regular check-ins and evaluations of risks, etc., are key. Listening to your team is also important, and being nimble to change when or have identified there are challenges that maybe are worthy of pausing, even it's for any respective duration. You want to make sure that you allow for that time frame for the acceptance to take shape. But provided you have those key elements identified, there's always growing pains, etc., that are involved with change. It's important to stay the course, and you have all the right respective team members in line to support that respective change.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. And maybe on the data side or the system side, the back end, should teams be prepared for things like that, integration with legacy systems, or, like the process changes technically, what goes on there?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. That can be described in so many different ways. Depending on the organization and the respective support groups you have within that organization, defines how many hats one person or one team may wear at any given time. As I describe, the awareness and the desire, certainly it's critical as it relates to the project that you're managing through. The project manager and the respective GIS team members are all incorporated into that plan. And if it involves system changes, not only process changes, that becomes that much more imperative as it relates to how you test and develop your user acceptance scenarios. So there's usually a sandbox and a testing ground in that sense before you move on to a production environment. But ultimately, provided you have those elements in line, you want to ensure that you have a hypercare process in place that allows for that GIS team, whether it be related to a process issue or some defect within the system rollout, that you have the right team members in place at the right time to, of course, remediate whatever respective challenges that's presented due to that change.
Fantastic. Those are really great insights. I think you got hit on all the key points for sure. So let's look a little bit in the future. If you can get out your, crystal ball for me, maybe say 3 to 5 years, from now, where do you see, or what part of AI do you think will be the most impactful for supply chain? And if you could address that maybe, again, in general, and then at Avnet specifically, what you might have in the pipeline.
Yeah. Well, when you consider the continuum related to supply chain management, there's a lot involved. Internal as well as external partners. I would expect that maturation cycle to get better over time. The benefit that we have here at Avnet is that, as I mentioned, we have a plethora of data, decades of data. And so we have what is the foundation, if you will, of, starting that process of learning, if you will, and the AI tool set will certainly be beneficial in that regard. What we also have is our respective team members that have been working through analytics and deep dive analytics within the respective pathway of learning what our opportunities are. And so, in logistics, we started our journey with, I'll say, a better sense of understanding from a descriptive perspective what's happening in our organization. That then led us to a more diagnostic approach. And so not only do we want to be able to describe what happened, but also diagnose why it may have happened. So that then becomes a foundation for the learning aspect. And then when you loop in and bolt AI onto that way of thinking, if you will, that cultural way of managing through your opportunities, it then gives insight to the predictive models. And that then would lead to more of a prescriptive approach. And AI is critical in that sense, where it helps you not only understand and describe what has happened and certainly, there's solutioning as it relates to that evaluation, but it also will help you in the speed of predicting when those occurrences may arise, future tense, and then likely presenting solutions through a prescriptive model based on AI and the respective intervention that it would provide.
Yeah. Sounds like it really will be that differentiator. And then I guess maybe we'll get to table stakes in just a few years.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, as we wrap up, if you could share, any other thoughts you have or any other advice for logistics leaders in your, similar position who are kind of looking to get on this AI journey with their companies, what do you have for them?
Yeah, there's, I'll say, an abundance of opportunities as it relates to AI engagement. The thing that I am most encouraged by is the strategy that we've developed within Avnet. And as I've mentioned, we have the knowledge-based AI tool set that we believe will be very advantageous for us. But there's a governance that's also critical as it relates to how you manage through your AI models and what all you incorporate. So you want to make sure you have the guardrails in place. And so, we certainly have taken the step in the right direction in that regard. And, I believe our strategy that we have in place will certainly be beneficial in that sense.
Excellent. Great. Well, Shaune, thank you so much for sharing all of your insights. I think you gave us some really good specifics that I know our audience will appreciate.
Yeah.
And again, thanks for your time. Good luck on the continuing of your AI journey, and would love to hear how things keep going for you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Appreciate the time, Amy, and the opportunity to present. Pleasure.
Fantastic. Great. Thanks so much.
The Inbound Logistics Podcast is a production of Inbound Logistics Magazine. For the most in-depth information around logistics, transportation, and supply chain practices, get your free print and digital subscription at inboundlogistics.com/subscribe. Connect with us via LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube for the most current developments in the industry. If you'd like to leave us some feedback or have a topic you'd like to see covered in a future episode, call our dialogue line at 888-878-3247 or leave us an email at podcast@inboundlogistics.com. I'm your host, Jeff Vita. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time here on the Inbound Logistics Podcast.